All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today we're going to talk about something called dual coding. And trust me, if you ever have to teach, learn, or just explain anything complicated, this is a total game changer.
You know the feeling, right? You're in a meeting, you're in a lecture, and an hour later, it's like, what did we even talk about? It's so frustrating, and we've all been there.
But what if I told you that the problem isn't you? It's not your memory failing. The real culprit is how the information was designed and presented in the first place. And if it's a design problem, that means we can fix it.
So let's start there. If forgetting is a design problem, what does bad design actually look like? Why is it so hard to make knowledge stick around?
Well, think about it. When someone is just talking at you, those words are poof, gone the second they're said. It's called the transient information effect. Your brain is working like crazy just to hold on to the words, let alone process what they mean. It's like trying to catch smoke.
So how do we fight that? How do we make ideas stay? Well, this is where it gets really cool. It turns out our brains are already wired for the solution. Way back in 1971, a psychologist named Alan Pavio came up with his dual coding theory. And the big idea is this. Our brains don't just have one big inbox for information. We have two separate but connected channels, one for words and one for images.
So let's break that down. You've got your verbal system, right? That handles all the language stuff. Words you hear, words you read. Then you've got the nonverbal system. That's for pictures, diagrams, graphics, even the little movies you play in your head. They're like two different lanes on the same highway in your brain.
And here is the absolute key. When you get information that uses both channels, so words plus a relevant visual, you give your brain two hooks to hang that memory on. It makes the memory way stickier, more robust. So if you forget one path back to the idea, you've still got the other one.
But there's a really important warning here. Just because we have two channels doesn't mean we should just throw a bunch of stuff at the brain and hope it sticks. We have to respect its limits, because our processing power is definitely not infinite. This brings us to a huge idea called cognitive load theory. And it basically says this. Our working memory, the part of our brain that's juggling new info, can only handle a few things at once. If you overload it, learning just stops, dead in its tracks. You can think of your mental energy kind of like this. Some of it is good effort, which is the brain power you actually spend understanding things. But a lot of it can be wasted effort, the energy you burn just trying to figure out a confusing slide or a poorly structured explanation. The goal of good design is to shrink that wasted effort right down to zero. And when we ignore all this, we get into what some people call instructional malpractice. Seriously, we end up creating things that don't just fail to teach, they can actually make learning harder. Let's look at two of the biggest mistakes people make. First up, the redundancy effect. This is when you show a complex diagram and then you also put a giant paragraph of text on the screen describing that same exact diagram. Now you're forcing your eyes to read the text and process the image at the same time. It's a traffic jam in your visual channel. The solution, the modality principle. Show the diagram, but speak the explanation. Now you're using both channels perfectly. Visual for the image, auditory for the words. Beautiful. The other big trap is the split attention effect. You've seen this a million times. The diagram is on the top left, but the label explaining what part A is in a key at the bottom right. Your brain has to waste all this energy just ping-ponging back and forth trying to connect the dots. Good design simply puts the label right next to the thing it's labeling. Okay, so we've seen the science, we've seen the pitfalls, so now for the good stuff. Let's talk about the solution. What's the blueprint for actually doing this right? Before you even start explaining, you have to prep your content. And the design expert, Oliver Caviglioli, has this amazing, simple three-part framework for it. It goes like this. First, cut. Be ruthless. Get rid of every single thing that isn't absolutely vital to the core idea. Then, chunk. Break down what's left into small, manageable, logical pieces. And finally, coordinate. Make sure your visuals are consistent, and you pair your key terms with simple, clean icons. Cut, chunk, coordinate. Easy. Okay, your content is prepped and ready to go. Now, how do you actually deliver it in a way that uses dual coding effectively? For that, we can turn to the Walkthrus 5-step model. Now, this is just brilliant. It moves the learner from being a passive couch potato to an active participant. It starts with the teacher drawing and explaining a diagram. But then, and this is the magic step, the student has to copy the diagram themselves and explain it back.
That physical act of drawing and talking at the same time cements the idea in memory. After that, you build on it, connecting the diagram to real-world examples until finally the student can use the model all on their own.
So, at the end of the day, what's the big payoff for doing all this? Why should we go to all the trouble of designing our explanations this way?
Well, the benefits are huge. The research is very clear on this. You get way better retention, you get deeper understanding of complex ideas, and you get something that might surprise you. You get higher motivation. When people feel like they're actually getting it without being overwhelmed, they lean in. They get more engaged. And this, for me, is the most important idea of all. Dual coding isn't just about making your slides look pretty. It's about something much deeper. It's about taking the complex, messy, expert mental model that lives inside one person's head and making it visible, concrete, and understandable for a beginner. It's a tool for making knowledge accessible to everyone. So I'll leave you with a challenge. Think about the most important, most fundamental idea that you teach or communicate in your work. Now, ask yourself, how could a simple diagram, paired with your words, make that one idea completely unforgettable?